if you're a Carolina fan listening right now and you haven't tuned into much Duke, get ready for Saturday. You're going to sit there on your FanDuel DraftKings Sportsbook app Saturday morning and going, oh, man, Duke's a 16.5-point favorite. That's crazy. No, there's a reason for that. Vegas knows what they're doing because this Duke team, man, it's just talk about roster construction, just the flip side of it when it can actually work.
Oh, my gosh.
John Shire and this Duke staff just did a masterclass job constructing this roster, making sure they had multiple guys with rim protection. Cooper Flagg, obviously, that's just you nailed there and you hit great recruiting, whatever. But even the guard play, fixing the Caleb Foster stuff and bringing in an experienced guy like Sion James, blending experience with freshman talent and getting wings and defenders and shooters and everything. The construction it's the most deep team in college basketball right now. And look, I usually love to play the reverse jinx thing, and let's just get right into it. Duke Carolina preview. I love doing the reverse jinx thing as a Duke guy where I'm like, oh, Carolina's going to win, Carolina this, Carolina that. This year, I just don't care. It's going to be a 16-point spread in this game, and this Duke team is so talented. My only concern about Duke going into this game is we've seen teams like Notre Dame and NC State can light it up from three-point range. NC State shot, I believe, 46% from three. Notre Dame shot near 60% from three, and it still didn't matter, and Duke still won those games with those teams shooting like that. They can beat you in every type of way. Duke can play every type of game, and they're just so talented every which way. I just don't know how Carolina stops them on defense.
Yeah, and as a Carolina fan, you're worried because if you have watched Duke this year, like you just said, teams get hot against them, they still win. I've seen Duke win ugly. That game against Winston-Salem against Wake Forest, what did they start the second half? 1 for 20 from the field, and they still ended up winning that game?
They scored 3 points in 12 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So you've seen Duke win every which way. Team gets hot against three. You win ugly, turnovers, fast break points, whatever. Duke has found a way to pull all these out of their ass. And so if you're Carolina, just talking about game preview, jack up a bunch of threes, raise the pace, because against Wake Forest, it seems like Wake Forest, they won the transition points battle 12-2. It felt worse. I thought it was more than that, but they got out in transition against this Duke team. If you're Carolina, that's what you have to do. Because if you slow the pace down, try to run an offense, try to run plays, Duke's half-court defense is so freaking good this year, you're not going to be able to score the ball. They're holding teams to like under 60 points, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Every shot against this Duke team, and people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, you're biased, you're a Duke fan. Truly, I mean this, how good this defense is. I would say 90 to 95% of shots that go in from the opposing team honestly just feel lucky. And the other thing I will say about Carolina, this is like an intangible kind of dumb basketball brain thing, is playing in a small gym, it is so much easier to shoot in a small gym. It just flat out is. I understand Cameron Indoor is going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. That Duke defense is going to be swarming in that game. But teams have had success shooting in Cameron Indoor this season because small gyms are easier to shoot in if you've ever played basketball.
What about the Final Four gyms in the football stadiums? Depth perception?
Much harder to shoot in. Exactly. That's why we see 20% from three in Final Four in football stadiums.
One point I wanted to bring up, Carter, and I'm sure you're going to agree with this. This is a Drake Powell draft stock game because if you're Hubert Davis, you have to start Drake Powell this game. He's rolled with the 4-guard lineup for the last 2-3 games, and Drake Powell's come off the bench. Cannot do that. You cannot put Seth Trimble on Cooper Flagg on Saturday against Duke. So you're going to have to start Drake Powell, and I think there's a chance if he somehow keeps Cooper Flagg in check, makes life hard, not stops him, but just makes life hard for him, I think he might play himself into a lottery pick because this is going to be a national stage, big game, big-time matchup against the best player in the country. Drake Powell's sitting like late first round right now, mid-second round even I've seen. This could be one of those games where he decides to leave or not.
I think you're 100% right there. And that's got to be Carolina's lineup going into this game because
has to be.
It's the number one question going into this is how do you stop Cooper Flagg? How do you, obviously you're not going to
pray he blows his shoe out. You pray he blows a shoe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you stop Cooper Flagg? And, if Carolina rolls out a 4-guard lineup, then look, it's going to be tough on defense. They're probably going to have to go zone at that point. You can't play man.
But even then, it's like every rebound is going to be a dog fight. There's not going to be any, backside rebounding help. And if you go zone, we're back to the same problem. You got Ian Jackson and
Yeah.
Cadeau back there, or RJ Davis, who are all 6'3" or under. It just comes down to when you play basketball like this, it's height. You can't teach that. And in a lineup where Duke starts, 7 foot, 6'10", 6'9", 6'7", 6'4", whatever it is, and Carolina has 4 guys under 6'4", you can't overcome that. Not for long stretches. You might be able to go 4 guards for a few stretches and press and maybe try to make Duke up the tempo a little bit, but that's not going to be the winning lineup. You have to play Drake Powell, and one of these bigs is going to have to bulk up and get rebounds and really box out. And I don't know if I have faith in them to do that.
And Carolina's got to hit shots early. That's another.
And they haven't done that this year. So many games it's been down by 10 in the first half, down by 20 in the first half. And they fight back and claw back, and then they lose by 1. Going into last night against Pittsburgh, 9 one-possession games. 9. And yes, they were 5-4 in those, but a lot of those wins were against worse opponents. They haven't beat a lot of good teams this year.
No. And they come out so slow in so many first halves, even against the crappier opponents. You're when they played American, you're like, why is this a 4-point game at halftime?
Elon,
or whatever it was.
Season opener.
Elon, not a bad team. Elon,
okay.
sneaky, frisky.
Okay, all right, fair.
Yeah, I like the Phoenix.
So
I'm not gonna lie.
All right, so from a Duke perspective, what does this game mean for them from a pressure standpoint? Because it almost feels like because Carolina has had such a disappointing season, they can only hurt themselves in this game. They're supposed to win by 20, but they can only really hurt themselves. If they don't do that, then all of a sudden it's a negative. What do you think?
Normally, I would agree with that, but Carolina is playing with a desperation in this game, and the pressure is on Carolina too, because if Carolina doesn't win this game, it makes their tournament seeding and resume, a lot more bleak at that point. So I agree with it from that standpoint, but look, man, Duke's Shire and the guys that were on that team last year aren't going to forget what happened last season. That's a real thing. And you're going to see if this is a 15, 20-point game late in the second half, I wouldn't be surprised if the starter stayed in till the very bitter end. It's one of those type things, and I know Duke has the pressure. Duke has kind of been sluggish recently. That's my concern is Duke has been sluggish against Wake and NC State and allowed them to get back in these games a little bit. I think NC State was a look-ahead spot, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I can see that. And Duke hasn't lost since November 26th against Kansas. So it's been a while. It's been, 2 months now since they've lost a game? Does that worry you at all that they haven't dropped one of those stupid, mid-tier ACC games that you expect? They're probably going to drop one. Or was that the Wake Forest or State game where they pulled it out?
My guess would be it would either be Carolina or Clemson. That would be the game they'd drop. And as a fan, you're going into March Madness. You're like, oh well, we probably need to get a loss out of the way. We not need to get a loss out of the way. I don't know, man. Maybe this team is just that good.
It feels like the Wake Forest game or the NC State game was that loss for Duke, especially on the road in Winston-Salem. I feel like that's typically what they lost the last 2 times they've been there, I think, is what the stat was, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and so you'd think that would be the loss, but they stormed back in that one and won. So maybe they won't lose. Maybe they won't lose the rest of the year. This Duke team is that good. And as a Carolina fan, it's bleak, Carter. It's bleak. This matchup is bleak. And I want to get excited. I want to say there's a path. I want to say there's a chance, but it would take a miracle. It would take 60% from 3, and I don't even know, Duke to just shoot 10%.
Carolina needs to make probably 18 to 23s to have a chance in this one.
What do you think the game plan is going in for them? Do you think Hubert Davis is going to be get up as many threes as you can?
If Hubert Davis is not thinking we need to get up as many threes as we can, there is a 0.0% chance Carolina wins this game. Even if we see dumb fouls and Cooper Flagg gets into foul trouble, it doesn't matter. The rim protection, and even if Cooper Flagg goes down, Duke has enough guys that they're still more talented than Carolina at that point. Guys like Con Knippel, Isaiah Evans, Tyrese Proctor, Sion James. I mean, who's stopping Malawatch? Who's stopping if Malik Brown ends up playing in this game? Who's stopping Exactly. That's my point. So, yeah, I mean.
And it's you're right. The tier of talent is just a little below, actually a lot below where Duke is, but it's guys like Carolina misses in the portal, and then you go get Vin Allen Lubin, who hustles his ass off. I want to give him so much credit because he really does battle, but he's 6'8". Doesn't jump very high. He boxes out well, but eventually guys are just going to go over your back. And against Duke's front court, what do you do? What do you do? Genuinely, what do you do?
Wingspan.
There's going to be some serious foul trouble in this game. You're going to see James Brown tie Claude within the first 10 minutes of the game because UNC's bigs are going to be hacking on rebounds. I guarantee it.
And that's the key for Duke in this one as well, is if Cooper Flagg and Drake Powell are the matchup from the get-go, Cooper Flagg's got to do what he did to Dontrell Styles against NC State, get him into foul trouble early. And if you get 2 early fouls on Drake Powell, Cooper Flagg's going to have it's going to be barbecue chicken from there on out.
Where do you turn from there? You put Seth Trimble on him? You bring in Cade Tyson? There's nothing you can do. There's no backup wings.
And then if you double, then it's swing, swing, boom, Con Knippel, wide open three-pointer. Swing, swing, boom, Isaiah Evans, wide open three-pointer. Or alley-oop to Malawach. It puts the Carolina defense in hell, but
the one area I can see Carolina having success in, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, I could be way off. I have watched some Duke this year. Do you think Duke's bigger guards like Con Knippel will have trouble on switches stopping the first step of somebody like Elliot Cadeau getting into the lane?
No.
Because yes, Carolina's smaller, but they're also quicker. So if there's a switch out there, I feel like Cadeau can get penetration and get in the lane. It's just a matter of will he make the right decision when he gets in there.
No, I think the size of Duke, because people say, oh, switch on a Con Knippel. He's a slow white guy. Dude's he's still 6'6", 6'7". That's the other issue. And he's not that slow either, and he's pretty athletic. And the other thing is, when you play against Elliot Cadeau, you can sag off more. And look, he
started hot last night.
Fine. What happened in that game? They still lost.
Foul trouble. Oh, you want to get into it? Elliot Cadeau. Carter. Elliot Cadeau, from a pure passing standpoint, is the best passer I've seen in Carolina Blues since Kendall Marshall. Hands down, from a pure passer standpoint.
Who would even be the second to Kendall Marshall? Like, who's even in that discussion? Like,
there hasn't been a ton of pure point guards. Yeah, maybe Theo, because it's not like Marcus Page was a scorer, Kobe White was a scorer, none of those guys.
Yeah.
But if you're Elliot Cadeau, I talked about this on Big Hitters Only last night, you got to realize how important you are to this team. Because he started off last night, 9 points, 6 assists in the first 15 minutes of the game. He was killing Pitt. He was playing really well, getting to his spots, setting guys up for open shots. All of a sudden, in the second half, he's a non-factor because of foul trouble. Because he starts rushing, starts forcing things, turns it over, and then he does the classic, oh, I turned it over. Let me grab the guy who just stole the ball from me as I'm falling to the ground, like the ref's not standing right there. And all of a sudden, you have 4 fouls with 15 minutes left in the game, and you're a non-factor. That's horrible for Carolina. And not to get too far ahead, but next year, that cannot happen. When Elliot Cadeau's a number 1 or 2 option on Carolina next year, can't do that. I just need him to be more confident and aware of how important he is to the team. I don't know. I think he's going to be a big factor.
And the other thing is, too, he has a prone to play, I call it Jimmer Fredette defense. If you remember Jimmer Fredette in college and in the NBA, when a guy would beat him on a first step, he would just reach in and give up cheap fouls.
The wraparound.
Yep. Or just
the classic pickup ball special.
Yeah, or just try and poke whenever you're like, dude, I don't feel like moving. And I think a lot of his foul trouble is due to his being undersized. I think that's a lot of it.
You
and
think
the frustrations. So? Yeah, because he tries to bite too much, and then he gets overly aggressive, and you kind of have to be when you're so much smaller than these guys, and that forces him, because he gets switched a lot too. So
he does.
He's gonna be huge in this game. But that's what I'm saying. Like, look, I understand he's been shooting a lot better from 3 compared to last season, but you can still sag off of him quite a bit to where he can't beat you on that first step. And the other issue is, let's say he does beat Con Knippel or whoever on that first step. Who's he going into? He's going into Malik Brown or Kamon Malawach.
And that's the problem where. But the thing is, Cadeau is a skilled enough passer to get around them. The problem is Carolina's bigs can't catch the ball. Carolina's bigs can't catch the ball. Jalen Washington, if he plays, he's hurt right now. If he plays, he's weak going up with it a lot of times. Then Allen Lubin can't catch the ball. Ty Claude can't catch the ball. James Brown can't catch the ball. What are you doing? If you're Duke, you're happy to help off them because you got time to recover.
The other key for Duke in this game is don't settle. Do not settle for 3-point shots in this game. Keep taking it to the cup. Don't stop driving to the paint. The lanes are going to be open. You're going to be able to put Carolina on the free throw line, especially if we get a tight officiating crew from the ACC in this one. Hopefully there's a little Cameron Indoor special, little
you won't need whistle. It. You don't need it.
Well, we'll need it. But, yeah, keep driving, getting to the paint. And if Duke is having success getting to the paint, which I think they will, then the three-point shot opens up a ton as well, and then open up the floodgates. We could be talking about a 20, 30-point game.
And tell me if I'm off base here. I think sneakily this might be a Tyrese Proctor game. Because if you're a scoring guard against Carolina's defense, it's open season. If you're in a slump, you want to play Carolina. It's like you're playing the Pacers or the Lakers. You circle that on the schedule and be like, all right, I'm about to go off. Or against the Bucks in the NBA, it's like, all right, Swiss cheese defense. They don't know how to guard the pick and roll. I'm going to have 25 tonight. I think Tyrese Proctor sneakily might have a really good game. Because he has been cold.
He has been cold recently, so I like that. I think Isaiah Evans has a game. And I think
how much is he going to play?
He'll play now. It's all about how well he shoots early on. Because he'll come in the first half. He'll play big minutes in the first half. And if he hits a couple threes early on, he's going to start playing a lot. And the broadcast is going to talk about it nonstop. Being a guy from North Carolina playing in this rivalry, and he's going to talk he talks crap, dude. Carolina fans are going to despise him.
I worked his state championship game in high school last year. I was doing the broadcast for that, and he was talking crazy to guys. He's like 17 years old. Oh man,
yeah, he was playing Mount Airy in North Carolina, or I think it was Mount Airy, and
I forget who it was.
And he was just chirping at their student section and all this stuff. Dropped like 40 points or whatever. So. Yeah, I'm excited for the game Saturday. I know you're probably not as excited.
Karter, be ready for this. Be ready for this from a broadcast standpoint. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Real quick, if you're taking the 16-point spread for Duke, be careful. This is a rivalry game. Like, anything can happen. We saw in 2020, anything can happen. Even though Duke won that game, I mean, that Carolina team was butt cheeks. And it took a literal miracle from Trey Jones and Wendell Moore. So give me a prediction for the game.
Score prediction? Or what?
Yeah. Score prediction and how it transpires.
I'll be honest, of the two matchups, you usually say it's going to be a split. I don't feel that way this year. I think in the first matchup at Cameron, Carolina's been struggling lately. I think Duke comes out and waxes them. I don't even think it's close, and it sucks to say as a Carolina fan. I think Duke probably wins 85-61. I think they leave the starters in, pull away, and Carolina maybe hangs around in the first half, but ultimately Duke's talent takes over.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I love the over in this game. Whatever the blind total, give it to me. I think Duke gets into the 90s in this game. I think it's going to be Duke 93, Carolina 79, and we see a ton of points. I think Cooper Flagg has a big game, and I think one of Con Knipple or Isaiah Evans gets red hot from three, and the rebounding difference is going to be critical, and Duke's going to put Carolina into foul hell, and Carolina fans are going to be like, wait, Seth Trimble, Drake Powell, Elliot Cadeau, and Jalen Washington are one of our bigs, already has 2 fouls in the first half. Like, what are we going to do at this point? And I think that's going to be the difference. And yeah, I really, the only path for Carolina to win this game is they need to hit 15 to 25 threes, genuinely.
If you see Ty Claude or James Brown in the first half, just know it's panic time for UNC. If Jalen Washington plays, but just know it's panic time. You're right. The key to success, shoot a bunch of threes, hit a bunch of threes, play at a breakneck pace, try to get Duke to play at your pace, because in a half-court offense, in a half-court game, you're not beating this Duke team. The defense is too good, and I think Cooper Flagg does have a game. And also, I want to go on the record and say I think Tyrese Proctor, I think he's the one that gets hot from three. That's my prediction.